Hello there and welcome to Blue Sky Media. Of course, it's that channel that ensures that all those that matter, we bring them here. You get to hear them, you get to see them talk to you about their life, about their experiences. And today is one such experience because we have a special guest. They don't come this big, creating a lot of nostalgia. We have in the studio one distinguished guest. She used to be a news reader with the ZBC back in the day, in the 80s and the like. She will tell us a lot more about herself. Let me introduce the lady, Noreen Welch. Noreen, welcome to Blue Sky Media.
Oh, well, welcome. It's so nice to be here. Thank you for asking me.
Right, this is wonderful. And for those that may be the latest generation, I will just give you a glimpse of who Noreen was and what she still holds. Take a look.
A West German television crew, which has been cooperating with Zimbabweans on a United Nations health film, is expected to leave for Ghana later this week. The crew, which has been in the country for more than a month, is working on the film entitled Traditional Medicine in Africa, and it is expected to be screened at the end of the year. A ZTV reporter talks to the television crew.
All right, so that was it. News anchor back in the day. Maybe let's start where it all started. How did you get into that field, which you ended up growing so known for in Zimbabwe in those days?
I'd done broadcasting before I came to what was then Rhodesia, and that was in I came back. I was born. Let's start at the beginning. I was born in Cape Town, and we left when I was 8. And I did my schooling in New Zealand. And then I came back in 1975 because my grandmother was dying, and I sort of was representing my mother. And I joined PACT, which was the Performing Arts Council of the Transvaal. And I came to what was then Rhodesia in Chicago, the musical, playing the part of Mama Morton. And then I enjoyed it so much in what was then Rhodesia. I finished my touring, which was done in the rest of South Africa and in Swaziland. And then I came back to Zimbabwe in 1977 and joined Radio Jacaranda as a continuity announcer. But in those days, we didn't always have newsreaders. That came in on the hour, and news was read sort of every 30 minutes. And you'd have someone slip you a bit of paper from the newsroom, and it would give you the news headlines, which you would read out. And it just sort of escalated from there. I joined Radio 1 full-time in 1979 and then started reading radio news and television news. So it was quite a long journey.
Maybe let's start with the Radio 1 during those days. Just give us a picture of what it was like.
Oh, Radio 1 was a very special station and always will be. I mean, we had... I did the breakfast show 3 mornings a week, and 2 mornings a week was Jane Esau. And I'm sure many people remember her. She's beautiful, just a beautiful person. And we had so much diversity on Radio 1. It was a good station. It played all sorts of music. It covered most things, you know, sort of news, current affairs, and that sort of thing. It was a very good station and had some, I would say, pretty awesome presenters. Radio Jacaranda was just like being a bit of a DJ in those days. And all you did was introduce your music and that sort of thing, you know. But there were people like Josh Makawa, Wellington and Mafana. Like that, we were working there then. John Matinde, and I think he's still on radio in Zimbabwe.
Yes. And interestingly, yours truly also then took up the same route. Radio 1 became Sport FM, SFM, and then at some point it returned to Sport FM, Classic 263, and I managed to walk that journey. I must say that, it's what was set, the bar that was set by you guys. And then how did you then cross over to do a lot of news, where now the big voice of Noreen Welch started to be heard?
I think that was in the sort of late 70s, early 80s. And they just wanted somebody who read consistently and who could work with the new intake. Because as you know, 1980 was independence, and we had a huge intake of new announcers, new announcers. And it was a matter of learning to work with your friends and comrades, and so that you gelled together, you worked together, and you worked smoothly together. And there was no conflict or anything. It was actually a very good time for learning for all of us. And I think you probably know a lot of people left during that transitional period.
And what were some of the challenges during that transitional period? People were coming from war, they were fighting, lots of name calling was taking place. And now you have to work together to create this thing that is bigger than the individual. What sort of challenges were being experienced there? Any experiences you can share?
I don't think there were many challenges we faced, as long as we accepted each other as mutual respect, with mutual respect, and as colleagues, and we could work together. I think that was the thing. That's very important, to have mutual respect. You respect your colleague and they respect you. And I think that's a big part of it. We did have a few sort of incidents that weren't to do with ZBC folk, but we had the army guarding at the gates. And there was a couple of incidents with army. One, they came on air and came into the studio, and when Kevin Rawnsley was on air and holding a AK-47, and he left his microphone on, and Tirafafi Kangai was the director, and he had heard it, and he came down, and this guy was as high as a kite. I mean, I had a rifle shoved in my face one morning in my car window, and you just have to say to them, just get out of it and let us get on with our jobs, That was, but basically the people working at ZBC and around us, like other news guys, other continuity announcers, other producers, programmers, we all worked together very, very well. I loved my days there.
Oh, wonderful. And they spanned up to which period?
In 1996, I left.
All right. And then during that period, I must say there was lots of competition. When we take a look at news reading, there were lots of news readers. Just go through some and what it felt like. I know it's the term that I used, competition, to describe the fact that there were very good readers as well at the time, and for you to be given that slot, it meant that you were very good yourself. Tell us about some of those people that you had to work alongside and during that very much star-studded era for ZBC news reading.
When we had Joseph Madimba, the man with the dark brown voice. We had Mike Munyati, Godfrey Majonga, so talented. Wellington Mbafana, who I mentioned earlier, who was a crossover from the earlier days. Busi Chindovi, she came from school. She was only 16 and she was a wonderful reader. Dorcas Monuro, another good reader. Timber Hove, Shingirai Virimai, one of my closest, dearest friends. I was with him the night he passed on. I was actually holding his hand at the hospital. We lost some really good souls. Siti Vera. It was just, we were a very close-knit bunch. And I don't think there was anything of us competing with each other. We were sort of, we each had our individual styles.
And news reading at the time, one would say that there was a bit of stability of some sort in the country. How do you think you were going to perform in the modern setup? If we were to take that same bunch and put them, if you look at the news and stuff, how do you think you guys were going to fare in the modern setup?
I think we'd fare pretty well. We were pretty adaptable. When you think of it, in those days, auto cue hardly ever worked. The lighting was crappy sometimes. It was so bad. It was just shocking. And we were in a little studio that was probably this wide, it was just terrible. And you're sitting right on top of each other. When we went through to main studio, it was fine because you had at least 3 feet between you. But there was just some disasters happened on there. I mean, just with auto cue and having to watch your paper because you knew it wasn't going to roll properly. But I think because we became so adaptable, we could face anything apart from laughing on air.
Talking about things that happen on air, any experiences of moments where you're like, that day things almost went wrong? Any experiences of that nature when you're on air and something, or maybe that on that particular day things were not moving according to script?
I had a few days like that. And then, of course, Siti Vera and I were suspended for 3 months for laughing. And but in hindsight, it was probably worth it. It's very difficult when you're reading something and it's not, you're going to laugh. And that no matter what, it's like, you're in a serious situation. Say you're sitting in church and you suddenly get the giggles, and you don't want to, but that's what happens when you're on. Now, today it's acceptable to laugh in the studio. In those days, it was not. And I think what people don't realize is that night, one of the main news items was the fact that a Libyan airliner had gone down with 200 and something people on board. And that had been part of the story. And that was what we were coming into in the back heads. And nobody picked up on that except we did. I mean, I spoke to the Libyan ambassador straight after the news to tell him what had happened. And that's the reason we got suspended, not because of the story, but because we laughed still in the back heads. And I think that's what people don't realize, because it was really serious about the Libyan airliner. I'm sure you can.
Yeah. And then you touched on the fact that nowadays people are allowed to laugh. They are more freer when reading news. Back in the day, it was a very straightforward, cold, formal, and the like. Which one do you think you were going to, if you were to get a glimpse of both worlds, which one do you think you were going to fit even better in?
I probably would have fitted a little bit in between, actually, because basically I'm quite a serious person, although I've been told I have a very naughty sense of humour. So, anything's possible. I'm sure you know that, Sibo.
And then maybe give us your top 5 readers of your time. Top 5 readers of your time.
I would say Mike Munyati, Joseph Madimba, Godfrey Majonga, Dorcas Chindobi, and Dorcas Manyora and Busi Chindobi would be my top 5. They were fluent, brilliant readers.
Training, you guys underwent any form of training of some sort, even in-house? What were things like to ensure people were so polished? Because you're mentioning a huge list of newsreaders. You don't get that nowadays.
No, you don't. We had James Robinson, who was the head of presentation, and he put the fear of God in you. I'll tell you, if you made a mistake, you heard about it the next day and you were called into his office and you either had to sort it out or you had to sort of spend an hour with him going over pieces. He was excellent, but you never knew when you were going to get a call from him. I mean, you could be in the studio and doing a program or doing bright and early, and you'd get a phone call and it would be James saying, would you mind coming into my office? And you knew you were in the crap. Excuse the expression. But you did. You just...
Right. Let's wrap things up so that I can give you time to rest. You are thousands and thousands of miles away from where I am, and the time differences and all the likes. We're thanking you for affording us your time. And now, looking at news, do you still have any involvement with the media industry, or you have said, you know what, my time is up, I've passed on the baton to others?
No, I don't have any involvement. I just post news, and I feel like I'm sort of contributing to make people aware of what is fact and what is fiction. But I have no involvement. You're the first interview that I've given to anyone since I left the country.
Wow.
In 2000.
Wow.
Yeah.
That makes it big. That makes it big. It's good to have legends, and this channel is about legends. We want to celebrate our own people and make sure that they are remembered while we still have them. So it's always good to have you. And maybe what would be your words to people that enjoyed watching you? I know some nostalgia has been created. People enjoyed seeing you reading the news, and as we have been throwing some clips of you reading the news there, I'm sure that a lot of people were just lit up. Even when you mentioned some of your colleagues, people were lit up. What would you want to say to them in closing, to those people that watched you, and maybe also a message to the current news readers, a word of advice to them too?
My word of advice is to have patience and persevere. Always persevere, and you can always improve. And to viewers, I'd just like to say I loved being along for the ride, and I wish everybody the best of everything, and may all the newsreaders turn out as good as the ones that used to be. And thank you.
Thank you so much. That was maybe before you go, if you could indulge me, I wish there was a script in front of you. We would love to hear you read one more time, just one more time.
this is a story that's actually on News Tonight.
Wonderful.
And it's a man who won a charity auction for the transcript of Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, calling actually to David Seymour an arrogant prick, will now have to take out a loan to help pay for a 1,100 winning bid. More than 280 bids were placed after bidding for Ardern and Seymour's joint charity Trade Me auction, and it began last Thursday with the money going towards Prostate Cancer Foundation. That's the sort of news we get in New Zealand.
Wow. That's the sort of voice that we're used to.
Oh my goodness. I'm very old now.
Well, thank you so much, Noreen, for affording us your time, and we would love to have a chat again. I'm sure that lots of stories. I also want to try and link up with other people, other greats that graced our studios back in the day. Thank you so much once again.
Take care.
So that was Noreen Welch. You remember her from her news reading days with ZBC TV back in the day. And she was sharing us about her experiences as well as her life and what she's now up to. It's been great, and it's good to know that she's still around, strong and fit as a fiddle. So we want to say thank you so much to her. And for those that just linked up to Blue Sky Media, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification button so that you can be able to listen and watch some more of this and the kind. My name is Bongomusa Dlodlo Mpangazit. Until the same time next time, from me to you, it's cheers. Ta-da.